Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Idiot Book Nook. My name is Blazewing and my pronouns are she, her, and they, them.
I am the reading dragon, and my pronouns are she, her.
I'm Lady Punnet, and my pronouns are she, her, and sometimes they, them.
So, as usual, we have our disclaimer here. We here at the Idiot Book Nook do not support the actions, views, or opinions of J.K. Rowling. We are simply Harry Potter fans who grew up with the books during important times in our life. For us, Hogwarts is, and most likely will continue to be home. We do not condone the racist, transphobic, and anti-Semitic imagery that is depicted within the pages of these books. It should also be noted that this podcast does include spoilers, so if you haven't yet read the books, you may want to consider revisiting us when you've had a chance to catch up, unless you don't care about spoilers, in which case, welcome to the shit show. If you would like to contact us, you can do so on our social medias. You can find Lady Punnet on TikTok at paulina.avalon. You can find myself at linktr.ee/blazewing2010. You can find The Reading Dragon at linktr.ee/thereadingdragon. If you would like to see our podcast feed or leave us a recorded voice message, you can do so at anchor.fm/idiot-book-nook. And if you leave us a voice message, there is a chance that we would end up doing viewer feedback, or listener feedback session, basically a mailbag session where we take your recordings and we play them live on the air here. You can also leave us an email at idiotbooknook@gmail.com and give us feedback there as well. If you would like to check out our website, where we are still in the process of building up, you can visit us at idiotbooknook.wordpress.com. With that being said, I believe we have another chapter to get into.
Yes, we do. So, without further ado, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's or the Philosopher's Stone, narrated by the Reading Dragon, voice acted by Blazewing 2010 and Lady Punnet. Chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest. Things couldn't have been worse. Filch took them down to Professor McGonagall's study on the first floor, where they sat and waited without saying a word to each other. Hermione was trembling. Excuses, alibis, and wild cover-up stories chased each other around Harry's brain, each more feeble than the last. He couldn't see how they were going to get out of trouble this time. They were cornered. How could they have been so stupid as to forget the cloak? There was no reason on earth that Professor McGonagall would accept for their being out of bed and creeping around the school in the dead of night, let alone being up the tallest astronomy tower, which was out of bounds except for classes, and Norbert and the invisibility cloak, and they might as well be packing their bags already. Had Harry thought that things couldn't have been worse? He was wrong. When Professor McGonagall appeared, she was leading Neville.
Harry!
Neville burst out the moment he saw the other two.
I was trying to warn you. I heard Malfoy saying he was going to catch you. He said you had a drag...
Harry shook his head violently to shut Neville up, but Professor McGonagall had seen. She looked more likely to breathe fire than Norbert as she towered over the three of them.
I would never have believed it of any of you. Mr. Filch says you were up at the astronomy tower. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Explain yourselves.
It was the first time Hermione had ever failed to answer a teacher's question. She was staring at her slippers, as still as a statue.
I think I've got a good idea of what's going on,
said Professor McGonagall.
It doesn't take a genius to work it out. You fed Draco Malfoy some cock and bull story about a dragon trying to get him out of bed and into trouble. I've already caught him. I suppose you think it's funny that Longbottom here heard the story and believed it too?
Harry caught Neville's eye and tried to tell him without words that this wasn't true, because Neville was looking stunned and hurt. Poor blundering Neville. Harry knew that it must have cost him to try and find them in the dark, to warn them.
I'm disgusted,
said Professor McGonagall.
4 students out of bed in one night. I've never heard of such a thing before. You, Miss Granger, I thought you had some more sense. As for you, Mr. Potter, I thought Gryffindor meant more to you than this. All 3 of you will receive detention. Yes, you too, Mr. Longbottom. Nothing gives you the right to walk around school at night, especially these days. It's very dangerous. And 50 points will be taken from Gryffindor.
50?
Harry gasped. They would lose the lead he'd won in the last Quidditch match.
50 points each,
said Professor McGonagall, breathing heavily through her long, pointed nose.
Professor, please. You can't... Hermione.
You can't! Don't tell me what I can and can't do, Potter. Now get back to bed, all of you. I've never been more ashamed of Gryffindor students.
150 points lost. That put Gryffindor in last place. In one night, they'd ruin any chance of that Gryffindor had had for the House Cup. Harry felt as though the bottom had dropped out of his stomach. How could they ever make up for this? Harry didn't sleep all night. He could hear Neville sobbing into his pillow for what seemed like hours. Harry couldn't think of anything to say to comfort him. He knew Neville, like himself, was dreading the dawn. What would happen when the rest of Gryffindor found out what they'd done? At first, Gryffindors passing the giant hourglass that recorded the house points the next day thought there'd been a mistake. How could they suddenly have 150 points fewer than yesterday? And then the story started to spread. Harry Potter, the famous Harry Potter, their hero of 2 Quidditch matches, had lost them all those points. Him and a couple of other stupid first years. From being one of the most popular and admired people at the school, Harry was suddenly the most hated. Even Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs turned on him, because everyone had been longing to see Slytherin lose the House Cup. Everywhere Harry went, people pointed and didn't trouble to lower their voices as they insulted him. Slytherins, on the other hand, clapped as he walked past them, whistling and cheering. "Thanks, Potter, we owe you one." Only Ron stood by him.
They'll all forget this in a few weeks. Fred and George have lost loads of points in all the time they've been here, and people still like them. They've never lost 150 points in one go, though, have they?
Harry said miserably.
Well, no.
Ron admitted. It was a bit late to repair the damage, but Harry swore to himself not to meddle in things that weren't his business from now on. He'd had it with sneaking around and spying. He felt so ashamed of himself that he went to Wood and offered to resign from the Quidditch team.
Resign?
Wood thundered.
What good will that do? How are we going to get any points back if we can't win at Quidditch?
But even Quidditch had lost its fun. The rest of the team wouldn't speak to Harry during practice, and if they had to speak to him, they called him the Seeker. Hermione and Neville were suffering too. They didn't have as bad of a time as Harry because they weren't as well known, but nobody would speak to them either. Hermione had stopped drawing attention to herself in class, keeping her head down and working in silence. Harry was almost glad that the exams weren't far away. All of the studying he had to do kept his mind off of his misery. He, Ron, and Hermione kept to themselves, working late into the night, trying to remember the ingredients in complicated potions, learn charms and spells by heart, memorize the dates of magical discoveries and goblin rebellions. Then, about a week before the exams were due to start, Harry's new resolution not to interfere with anything that didn't concern him was put to an unexpected test. Walking back from the library on his own one afternoon, he heard somebody whimpering from a classroom up ahead. As he drew closer, he heard Quirrell's voice.
No, Not again, please.
It sounded as though someone was threatening him. Harry moved closer.
All right.
He heard Quirrell sob. Next second, Quirrell came hurrying out of the classroom, straightening his turban. He was pale and looked as though he was about to cry. He strode out of sight. Harry didn't think Quirrell had even noticed him. He waited until Quirrell's footsteps had disappeared, then peered into the classroom. It was empty, but a door stood ajar at the other end. Harry was halfway toward it before he remembered what he'd promised himself about not meddling. All the same, he'd have gambled 12 Sorcerer's Stones that Snape had just left the room, and from what Harry had just heard, Snape would be walking with a new spring in his step. Quirrell seemed to have given in at last. Harry went back to the library, where Hermione was testing Ron on astronomy. Harry told them what he'd heard.
Snape's done it then,
said Ron.
If Quirrell told him how to break his anti-dark force spell...
They're still fluffy, though,
said Hermione.
Maybe Snape's found out how to get past him without asking Hagrid,
said Ron, looking up at the thousands of books surrounding them.
I bet there's a book in here somewhere telling you how to get past the giant three-headed dog. So what do we do, Harry?
The light of adventure was kindling again in Ron's eyes, but Hermione answered before Harry could.
Go to Dumbledore. That's what we should have done ages ago. If we try anything ourselves, we'll be thrown out for sure.
But we've got no proof,
said Harry.
Quirrell's too scared to back us up. Snape's only got to say he doesn't know how the troll got in at Halloween and that he was nowhere near the third floor. Who do you think they'll believe, him or us? It's not exactly a secret we hate him. Dumbledore will think we made up the whole thing to get him sacked. Filch wouldn't help us if his life depended on it. He's too friendly with Snape. And the more students get thrown out, the better he'll think. And don't forget, we're not supposed to know about the stone or Fluffy. That'll take a lot of explaining.
Hermione looked convinced, but Ron didn't.
If we just do a bit of poking around. No,
said Harry flatly.
We've done enough poking around.
He pulled a map of Jupiter toward him and started to learn the names of its moons. The following morning, notes were delivered to Harry, Hermione, and Neville at the breakfast table. They were all the same. No! Damn it. Hold on.
One moment, please. Technical glitch.
Yeah.
Go away. Go away.
And we have for those of you that can't see and you're listening to the podcast, we currently have a cat on Lady Punnet's keyboard and like balancing on her computer, and all we can see is cat face.
Are you freaking...
Go away.
Okay, it looked like my phone scrolled down, but in fact it scrolled up.
No one has paid to see a cat today.
Free cat, everybody.
Kitty rejects your shoeing.
Kitty needs to learn to respect me before I start spraying.
Please stand by. We're having technical kitty issues.
Yep.
Crittershy has redeemed cat check.
Okay, fine. Now you can show your face. Nacho, come here. I know you're upset that I sprayed you in the face, but you're trying to eat electrical cords.
Yep.
Okay, 1 second.
So
just trying.
We have one cat. So Lady Punnet owns 2 cats. One of them is named Nacho, and one of them is named Nugget.
Come here, Nugget.
They're paid for a kitty flash.
This is Nugget.
He is not amused.
He is not amused. He is 3 years old. He's a teenager.
Yep.
He's
like,
trying to get away.
Mom.
Make up your mind.
Mother.
Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? You never let me hold you anymore.
Mother, I crave violence.
Back to the book. Your detention will take place at 11 o'clock tonight. Meet Mr. Filch in the entrance hall. Professor McGonagall, Harry'd forgotten. Professor McGonagall. Harry had forgotten they still had detentions to do in the furrow over the points they'd lost. He half expected Hermione to complain that this was a whole night of studying lost, but she didn't say a word. Like Harry, she felt they deserved what they got. At 11 o'clock at night, they said goodbye to Ron in the common room and went down to the entrance hall with Neville. Filch was already there, and so was Malfoy. Harry had also forgotten that Malfoy had gotten a detention too.
Follow me,
said Filch, lighting a lamp and leading them outside.
I bet you'll think twice about breaking a school rule again, won't you, eh?
He said, leering at them.
Oh, yes. Hard work and pain are the best teachers, if you ask me. It's just a pity they let the old punishments die out. Hang you by your wrists from the ceiling for a few days. I've got the chains still in my office. Keep 'em well oiled in case they're ever needed. Right, off we go. And don't think of running off now. It'll be worse for you if you do.
They marched off across the dark grounds. Neville kept sniffing. Harry wondered what their punishment was going to be. It must be something really horrible, or Filch wouldn't be sounding so delighted. The moon was bright, but clouds scudding across it kept throwing them into darkness. Ahead, Harry could see the lighted windows of Hagrid's hut. Then they heard a distant shout.
That you, Filch? Hurry up. I want to get started.
Harry's heart rose. If they were going to be working with Hagrid, it wouldn't be so bad. His relief must have showed on his face, because Filch said,
I suppose you think you'll be enjoying yourself with that oaf. Well, think again, boy. It's into the forest you're going, and I'm much mistaken if you'll all come out in one piece.
At this, Neville let out a little moan, and Malfoy stopped dead in his tracks.
The forest?
He repeated, and he didn't sound quite as cool as usual.
We can't go in there at night. There's all sorts of things in there. Werewolves, I heard.
Neville clutched the sleeve of Harry's robe and made a choking noise.
That's your problem, isn't it?
Said Filch, his voice cracking with glee.
Should have thought of them werewolves before you got in trouble, shouldn't you?
Hagrid came striding toward them out of the dark, Fang at his heel. He was carrying his large crossbow, and a quiver of arrows hung over his shoulder.
About time,
he said.
I've been waiting for half an hour already. All right, Harry, Hermione. I shouldn't be too friendly with them, Hagrid,
said Filch coldly.
They're here to be punished, after all. That's why you're late, is it?
Said Hagrid, frowning at Filch.
Been lecturing them, eh? It's not your place to do that. Yeah, you've done your bit. I'll take over from here. I'll be back.
Go get it.
I'll be back at dawn,
said Filch.
For what's left of them.
He added nastily, and he turned and started back toward the castle, his lamp bobbing away in the darkness. Malfoy turned to Hagrid.
I'm not going into that forest,
he said, and Harry was pleased to hear the note of panic in his voice.
Yeah, if you want to stay at Hogwarts,
said Hagrid fiercely.
You've done wrong, and now you've got to pay for it. But this is servant stuff. This is not for students to do. I thought we'd be copying lines or something. If my father knew I was doing this, he'd... I tell you, that's how it is at Hogwarts,
Hagrid growled.
Copying lines? What good's that to anyone? You'll do something useful, and you get out. You think your father'd rather you were expelled than go back off to the castle and pack. Go on!
Malfoy didn't move. He looked at Hagrid furiously, but then dropped his gaze.
Right then,
said Hagrid.
Now, listen carefully, 'cause it's dangerous, and we're gonna do tonight, what we're gonna do tonight, and I don't want no one taking risks. Follow me over here a moment.
He led them to the very edge of the forest, holding his lamp up high. He pointed down a narrow, winding earth track that disappeared into the thick black trees. A light breeze lifted their hair as they looked into the forest.
Look there,
said Hagrid.
See that stuff shining on the ground? Silvery stuff? That's unicorn blood. There's a unicorn in there been hurt badly by summit. This is the second time in a week. I found one dead last Wednesday. We're gonna try and find the poor thing. We might have to put it out of its misery. And what if whatever hurt the unicorn finds us first?
Said Malfoy, unable to keep the fear out of his voice.
There's nothing that lives in the forest that'll hurt you if you're with me or Fang.
Said Hagrid.
And keep to the path. Right now, I'm going to split into two parties and follow the trail in different directions. There's blood all over the place. Must have been staggering around since last night, at least. I want Fang.
Said Malfoy quickly, looking at Fang's long teeth.
All right, but I warn you, he's a coward.
Said Hagrid.
So meet Harry and Hermione will go one way, and Draco, Neville, and Fang will go the other. Now, if any of us finds the unicorn, we send up green sparks, right? Get your wands out and practice now. That's it. And if anyone gets in trouble, send up red sparks. We'll come and find you. So, be careful. Let's go.
The forest was black and silent. A little way into it, they reached a fork in the earth path, and Harry, Hermione, and Hagrid took the left path, while Malfoy, Neville, and Fang took the right. They walked in silence, their eyes on the ground. Every now and then, a ray of moonlight through the branches above lit a spot of silver-blue blood in the fallen leaves. Harry saw that Hagrid looked very worried.
Could a werewolf be killing the unicorns?
Harry asked.
Not fast enough.
Said Hagrid.
It's not easy to catch a unicorn. They're powerful magic creatures. Never knew one to be hurt before.
They walked past a mossy tree stump. Harry could hear running water. There must be a stream somewhere close by. There were still spots of unicorn blood here and there along the winding path.
You're all right, Hermione.
Hagrid whispered.
Don't worry. You can't have got far if it's this badly hurt. And then we'll be able to get behind that tree!
Hagrid seized Harry and Hermione and hoisted them off the path behind a towering oak. He pulled out an arrow and fitted it into his crossbow, raising it, ready to fire. The three of them listened. Something was slithering over dead leaves nearby. It sounded like a cloak trailing along the ground. Hagrid was squinting up the dark path, but after a few seconds, the sound faded away.
I knew it.
He murmured.
There's someone in here that shouldn't be.
Sorry.
A werewolf?
Harry suggested.
It wasn't no werewolf, and it wasn't no unicorn neither.
Said Hagrid grimly.
Right. Follow me. Be careful now.
They walked more slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. Suddenly, in a clearing ahead, something definitely moved.
Who's there?
Hagrid called.
Show yourself. I'm armed.
And into the clearing came. Was it a man? Or a horse? To the waist, a man, with red hair and beard, but below that was a horse's gleaming chestnut body with a long reddish tail. Harry and Hermione's jaws dropped.
Oh, is you Ronan?
Said Hagrid in relief.
How are you?
He walked forward and shook the centaur's head.
Good evening to you, Hagrid.
Said Ronan. He had a deep, sorrowful voice.
Were you going to shoot me? Can't be too careful, Ronan.
Said Hagrid, patting his crossbow.
There's somewhat bad loose in this forest. This is Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, by the way. Students up at the school. And this is Ronan. You two. He's a centaur.
We've noticed.
Said Hermione faintly.
Good evening.
Or faintly, sorry.
Good evening.
Said Ronan.
Students, are you? And do you learn much up at the school?
A bit.
Said Hermione timidly.
A bit. Well, that's something.
Ronan sighed. He flung back his head and stared at the sky.
Mars is bright tonight. Yup,
said Hagrid, glancing up too.
listen, I'm glad we've run into you, Ronan, because there's a unicorn been hurt. You seen anything?
Ronan didn't answer immediately. He stared unblinkingly upward, then sighed again.
Always the innocent are the first victims,
he said.
So it has been for ages past, so it is now. Yup,
said Hagrid.
but have you seen anything, Ronan? Anything unusual? Mars is bright tonight,
Ronan repeated, while Hagrid watched him impatiently.
unusually bright. Yeah, but I was meaning anything unusual a bit nearer to home,
said Hagrid.
But you haven't noticed anything strange?
Yet again, Ronan took a while to answer. At last he said,
The forest hides many secrets.
A moment in the trees behind Ronan made Hagrid raise his bow again, but it was only a second centaur, black-haired and bodied, and wilder looking than Ronan.
Hello, Bane,
said Hagrid.
All right. Good evening, Hagrid. I hope you are well. Well enough. Look, I just been asking Ronan. You seen anything odd in here lately? There's the unicorn been injured. You wouldn't know anything about it, would you?
Bane walked over to stand next to Ronan. He looked skyward.
Mars is bright tonight,
he said simply.
we've heard.
Said Hagrid grumpily.
Well, if either of you do see anything, let me know, won't you? We'll be off.
Harry and Hermione followed him out of the clearing, staring over their shoulders at Ronan and Bane until the trees blocked their view.
Never,
said Hagrid irritably.
Try and get a straight answer out of a centaur. Ruddy stargazers, not interested in anything closer than the moon.
Are there many of them in here?
Asked Hermione.
A fair few. Keep themselves to themselves, mostly. But they're good enough about turning up if I ever want a word. They're deep. Mind centaurs, they know things. Just don't let on much. Do you think that was a centaur we heard earlier?
Said Harry.
That sound like hooves to you? Nah, if you ask me, that was what's been killing the unicorns. Never heard anything like it before.
They walked on through the dense, dark trees. Harry kept looking nervously over his shoulder. He had the nasty feeling they were being watched. He was very glad they had Hagrid and his crossbow with them. They had just passed a bend in the path when Hermione grabbed Hagrid's arm.
Hagrid, look! Red sparks! The others are in trouble!
You two, wait here.
Hagrid shouted.
Stay on the path, I'll come back for you.
They heard him crashing away through the undergrowth and stood looking at each other, very scared, until they couldn't hear anything but the rustling of leaves around them.
You don't think they've been hurt, do you? I'm sorry, that's Hermione's line. My bad. Sorry.
You don't think they've been hurt, do you?
Whispered Hermione.
I don't care if Malfoy has, but if something's got Neville, well, it's our fault he's here in the first place.
10 minutes dragged by. Their ears seemed sharper than usual. Harry seemed to be picking up every sigh of the wind, every cracking twig. What's going on? Where were the others? At last, a great crunching noise announced Hagrid's return. Malfoy, Neville, and Fang were with him. Hagrid was fuming. Malfoy, it seemed, had sneaked up behind Neville and grabbed him as a joke. Neville had panicked and sent up the sparks.
I'll be lucky to catch anything now, with the racket you two are making. Right, we're changing groups. Neville, you stay with me and Hermione. Harry, you go with Fang. And this idiot. I'm sorry.
Hagrid added in a whisper to Harry.
But he'll have a harder time frightening you, and we've got to get this done.
So Harry set off into the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walked for nearly half an hour, deeper and deeper into the forest, until the path became almost impossible to follow because the trees were so thick. Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. There were splashes on the roots of a tree as though the poor creature had been thrashing around it in pain close by. Harry could see a clearing ahead through the tangled branches of an ancient oak.
Look,
He murmured, holding out his arm to stop Malfoy. Something bright white was gleaming on the ground. They inched closer. It was the unicorn, all right, and it was dead. Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and sad. Its long, slender legs were stuck out at odd angles where it had fallen, and its mane was spread pearly white on the dark leaves. Harry had taken one step toward it when a slithering sound made him freeze where he stood. A brush on the edge of the clearing quivered. Then, out of the shadows, a hooded figure came crawling across the ground like some stalking beast. Harry, Malfoy, and Fang stood transfixed. The cloaked figure reached the unicorn, lowered its head over the wound in the animal's side, and began to drink its blood.
ah!
Malfoy let out a terrible scream and bolted. So did Fang. The hooded figure raised its head and looked right at Harry. Unicorn blood was dribbling down its front. It got to its feet and came swiftly toward Harry. He couldn't move for fear. Then, a pain like he'd never felt before pierced his head. It was as though his scar were on fire. Half blinded, he staggered backward. He heard hooves behind him, galloping, and something jumped clean over Harry, charging at the figure. The pain in Harry's head was so bad he fell to his knees. It took a minute or two to pass. When he looked up, the figure had gone. A centaur was standing over him. Not Ronan or Bane. This one looked younger. He had white blonde hair and a palomino body.
Are you all right?
Said the centaur, pulling Harry to his feet.
Yes, thank you. What was that?
The centaur didn't answer. He had astonishingly blue eyes, like pale sapphires. He looked carefully at Harry, his eyes lingering on the scar that stood out, vivid on Harry's forehead.
You are the Potter boy,
he said.
You had better get back to Hagrid. The forest is not safe at this time, especially for you. Can you ride? It will be quicker this way. My name is Ferenz.
He added, as he lowered himself onto his front legs so that Harry could clamber onto his back. There was suddenly a sound of more galloping from the other side of the clearing. Ronan and Bane came bursting through the trees, their flanks heaving and sweaty.
Ferenz,
Bane thundered.
What are you doing? You have a human on your back. Have you no shame? Are you a common mule? Do you realize who this is?
Said Ferenz.
This is the Potter boy. The quicker he leaves this forest, the better. What have you been telling him?
Growled Bane.
Remember, Ferenz, we are sworn not to set ourselves against the heavens. Have we not read what is to come in the movements of the planets?
Ronan pawed the ground nervously.
I'm sure Ferenz thought he was acting for the best,
he said in his gloomy voice. Bane kicked his back legs in anger.
For the best? What is it that you... What is that to do with us? Centaurs are concerned with what has been foretold. It is not our business to run around like donkeys after stray humans in our forest.
Ferenz suddenly reared onto his hind legs in anger so that Harry had to grab his shoulders to stay on.
Do you not see that unicorn?
Ferenz bellowed at Bane.
Do you not understand why it was killed? Or have the planets not let you in on that secret? I set myself against what is lurking in this forest, Bane, yes, with humans alongside me, if I must.
And Ferenz whisked around, with Harry clutching on as best as he could, and plunged off into the trees, leaving Ronan and Bane behind them. Harry didn't have a clue what was going on.
Why is Bane so angry?
He asked.
What was that thing you saved me from, anyway?
Ferenz slowed to a walk, warned Harry to keep his head bowed in case of low-hanging branches, but did not answer Harry's question. They made their way through the trees in silence for so long that Harry thought Ferenz didn't want to talk to him anymore. They were passing through a particularly dense patch of trees, however, when Ferenz suddenly stopped.
Harry Potter, do you know what unicorn blood is used for? No?
Said Harry, startled by the odd question.
We've only used the horn and tail hair in potions. That is because it is a monstrous thing to slay a unicorn.
Oh, where was it? Said Ferenz.
Only one who has nothing to lose and everything to gain would commit such a crime. The blood of a unicorn will keep you alive, even if you are an inch from death, but at a terrible price. You have slain something pure and defenseless to save yourself, and you will have but a half-life, a cursed life, from the moment the blood touches your lips.
Harry stared at the back of Ferenz's head, which was dappled silver in the moonlight.
But who'd be that desperate?
He wondered out loud.
If you're going to be cursed forever, death's better, isn't it? It is.
Ferenz agreed.
Unless all you need is to stay alive long enough to drink something else. Something that will bring you back to full strength and power. Something that will mean you can never die. Mr. Potter, do you know what is hidden in the school at this very moment? The Sorcerer's Stone, of course. The elixir of life. But I don't understand who... Can you think of nobody who has waited many years to return to power, who has clung to life, awaiting the chance?
It was as though an iron fist had clenched suddenly around Harry's heart. Over the rustling of the trees, he seemed to hear once more what Hagrid had told him on the night they had met.
Some say he died cod swallow, in my opinion. Don't know if he had enough human left in him to die. Do you mean?
Harry croaked.
That was
I think it might be Hermione.
Harry, are you all right?
Hermione was running toward them down the path. Hagrid... Hold on.
Yep. All right, give us 1 sec, guys. We have some, Remember how I told you we, read in public areas? Unfortunately, noise is a thing within the apartments, so just bear with us for 1 moment, please.
Until the day we can afford a recording space.
Yes.
In other news, Nacho has yet again proven he does not know about the great toilet paper shortage and continues to use them as toys. Where the fuck did I... No. Bad.
Still working on the lotto? Yup. Just bear with us here. We will get back to it.
We are almost done the chapter, and then we can have a discussion. I actually have quite a few notes about this chapter.
Cool. Yeah.
Because we got dumped a bunch of lore.
Yep.
1 moment.
Yep.
Hermione was running toward them down the path, Hagrid puffing along behind her.
I'm fine,
said Harry, hardly knowing what he was saying.
The unicorn's dead. Hagrid, in that clearing back there. This is where I leave you.
Firenze murmured as Hagrid hurried off to examine the unicorn.
You are safe now.
Harry slid off his back.
Good luck, Harry Potter,
said Firenze.
The planets have been read wrongly before now, even by Centaurs. I hope this is one of those times.
Where's my line?
He turned and cantered back into the depths of the forest, leaving Harry shivering behind him. Ron had fallen asleep in the dark common room, waiting for them to return. He shouted something about Quidditch fouls when Harry roughly shook him awake. In a matter of seconds, though, he was wide-eyed as Harry began to tell him and Hermione what happened in the forest. Harry couldn't sit down. He paced up and down in front of the fire. He was still shaking.
Snape wants the stone for Voldemort, and Voldemort's waiting in the forest? And all this time we thought Snape just wanted to get rich. Stop saying that name,
said Ron in a terrified whisper, as if he thought Voldemort could hear them. Harry wasn't listening.
Firenze saved me, but he shouldn't have done so. Bane was furious. He was talking about interfering with what the planets say is going to happen. They must show that Voldemort's coming back. Bane thinks Firenze should have let Voldemort kill me. I suppose that's written in the stars as well. Sorry, give me 1 sec. My phone's going nuts. Will you stop saying that name?
Ron hissed.
So, all I've got to wait for now is Snape to steal the stone.
Harry went on feverishly.
Then Voldemort will be able to come and finish me off. Well, I suppose Bane will be happy.
Hold on. Hermione looked very frightened, but she had a word of comfort.
Harry, everyone says Dumbledore's the only one you know who has ever been afraid of. With Dumbledore around, you know who won't touch you. Anyways, who says the Centaurs are right? They sound like fortune tellers to me, and Professor McGonagall says that's a very imprecise branch of magic.
The sky had turned light before they stopped talking. They went to bed, exhausted, their throats sore, but the night's surprises weren't over. When Harry pulled back his sheets, he found his invisibility cloak folded neatly underneath them. There was a note pinned to it, just in case.
And thus ends Chapter 15 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. That was the Forbidden Forest. So,
holy shit, we got 2 chapters left.
Yep, we got 2 chapters left for this book before we finish up. So, I only have 1 note for this chapter, but Lady Punnet, you said you have multiple, so I have just a comment. The chapter open when McGonagall has the Golden Trio in her office, has Harry and Hermione, and then pulls in Neville into her office. The only thing that passed through my mind is, why is it when there's trouble, it's always you 3?
Believe me, Professor, I've been asking myself that for the last 7 years.
6 years.
The only person that wasn't there was Ron.
And that's because Ron had an alibi.
Yeah. And that's because Ron actually, for once, didn't go rushing into trouble like he normally does.
However, they changed that in the film. Instead of, Neville being in trouble with the rest of them, it was freaking Ron in trouble with the rest of them.
Yeah.
What the heck was that?
That was Lady Punnet's headset.
Holy shit.
My batteries on my headset is starting to die, so...
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're going to have to be quick, because you know how loud my computer is.
Yeah.
So, all right, my first point is, how does the counting system work in Hogwarts? Does Hogwarts literally just always listen, and people of authority who say, you lose these points, you gain these points, and they automatically take it in and out like Hessie? So basically following through with the whole, Hogwarts is sentient, because otherwise I just picture the house elves have to go in and, count each of the ones and then have to put in each of the ones, and it has to be precise.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that also means that they'd have a house elf having to follow each one of the teachers at all times,
And the
Yeah.
prefix.
and the prefects,
And the students.
So I do like the idea that Hogwarts is sentient. Either that, or there's magic that is basically tied to the teachers. When you are given a post of teacher, you have this magic that is basically tied to you. So when you say the word house points and add or lose, that maybe it's automatically subtracted. Anyways, next point.
I'm pretty sure prefix are the only ones that are able to take away a certain amount of house points, because otherwise I just picture prefix being like, oh yeah, 10 points to you, 10 points to you. And I think it's only like they can only take like up to like 10 points away. It has to be for a valid reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next point.
This chapter proves children can be mean.
Absolutely.
I don't feel I need to expand on that. Children are just mean.
I mean, that was never up for debate. Have you weren't there during my high school days, but like I
worked in high schools.
Yeah, children are like terrible to each other.
Oh,
They
yeah.
Also, Weasley twins did not come in clutch this chapter. I am disappointed in the two of you. Quirrell didn't want to be possessed, but he is a weak-minded fool.
Yep.
Once again, do not need to expand on that.
Yep.
Yep.
Filch, meanie, not... Shut up. Sorry, that was my headset.
You're good.
Tell me, battery low again. Filch, being a meanie to first years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not helping with my whole theory of him only being like super hard on like the first couple of years.
Yep. Tyrion Phoenix
Malfoy's
says,
afraid
I
of-
can concur as one of the kids that others were assholes to. Yeah, same here, Tyrion.
Yep.
Malfoy's afraid of werewolves.
Yep.
Valid fear.
Yep.
Yep.
This one was more of like a point that I had that would have been interesting, which was, imagine if Malfoy was saved by Hagrid for whatever reason, he would have had a life debt to him.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And
One moment. I think Lady Punnet's headset just died.
Yep.
Give us 1 sec while she flips her settings back to her computer.
For a moment.
Do. So, Reading Dragon. What points do you have? What things do you have that you want to cover?
So the whole thing with the centaurs, yes, because it is canon that there are centaurs in the Forbidden Forest. However, in the film, there was only one that introduced himself, and I don't even think his name was Ferenz in that. I'd have to watch the film again. But in the book, there were three.
Ronan?
One that was, Ronan, Ferenz, and Bane. And Bane was the one that's like, stick to the tradition, stick to the rules, kind of like the parallel to Hermione, just a lot more aggressive about it.
Yep.
And then we have Ronan, who is more so in like on the fence, kind of in the middle, and is kind of just wanting things to be on some sort of like common ground or something like that.
Yeah.
The parallel to Ron.
I don't know how much
Hello.
time I have. I cannot
okay.
for the life of me find frickin' headphones
Okay.
because I don't
no.
use wired headphones anymore.
Okay, no worries.
Fair enough.
Sorry, keep going.
And for Ren's, I'm considering the parallel to Harry because he's trying to do what is right, and God's forbid what the stars say.
Yeah.
If there's something bad that he has the ability to prevent from happening, or if there's some BS going on that he doesn't like, he's going to make sure things are set straight.
Yep. Agreed.
So to me, those three centaurs were basically parallels to the Golden Trio.
Agreed. They very well could be used as a foil or basically a mirror of the Golden Trio. You are absolutely right. Lady Punnet, what are your other thoughts?
I don't think she can hear us at the moment.
No, I hear you. So when I'm not speaking, I'm just gonna plug them in because they do a weird thing and I have it on high. So
No, you're good.
Okay.
all right, so we'll see how long this lasts. All right, so my point was, imagine that what if Hagrid had owed a life debt, or not Hagrid, if Malfoy owed a life debt to Hagrid because he saved his life from this mysterious creature. Because here's the thing, he may hate the idea of Hagrid because of the years upon years of brainwashing from pureblood bigots, but they respect life debts.
Yep.
I honestly don't think Malfoy would be able to stand owing his life to Hagrid. I really don't.
Nope. And he would have said something to his dad, and then his dad would have had to say something, and then they would have been gobsmacked by the law.
Wait till my father hears about this! Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. I thought that would be funny.
Yep.
My next point, is Fang actually a coward? Because if so, why take him to protect students?
Because he's big and he's intimidating.
Yep.
Basically, first impression...
And he's loud.
Pardon?
And he's loud.
Yes.
Bark.
So, first impression is something big is coming at me, and then, oh shit, it's loud. It's going to draw attention. Doesn't mean he'll attack.
Nope.
Tyrion Phoenix says, I know you're sorry, Blaze. Now apologize. I'm Canadian. I'm always sorry.
Yeah.
One day Canadians will take over the world, and then you'll all be sorry.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm a quarter Canadian to begin with. Please take me home.
For all you guys know, we've already taken over, and we're just too polite to say we're in charge.
Where the hell is my free healthcare, damn it?
We're working on it. We like to give people in front of the line ahead of us. Werewolves aren't faster than unicorns.
Yeah. That's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, well, I mean, unicorns are extremely powerful creatures. They are one of the most innocent creatures out there, and their base form is effectively based off of a horse. I don't know of many creatures that can go faster than a horse can.
Well,
There's a few out there, don't get me wrong, but the majority, like, horses can run the speed of a decently paced car.
Yeah, I mean, that's why motor vehicles are based off of horsepower.
Yeah.
Like, the speed of a car is based on horsepower.
Give me one let me take a look at that.
I just looked it up. I looked it up. What's faster, a horse or a wolf? When it comes to escaping a pack of wolves, horses will outrun a wolf any day. Horses are bigger and have more endurance than wolves. A wolf can run at 35 miles per hour at top speed. Horses can run a lot faster than that.
Horses can run 55 miles per hour at top speed. That is like a decently paced car.
Yeah.
For instance, when I said there aren't many creatures that can run faster than a horse, one of the ones that can is a cheetah.
Yeah.
And cheetahs don't have the endurance to do it for long periods of time.
Cheetahs have enough endurance to do it for short bursts, whereas horses are bred. They basically evolved to run long distances.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interesting tidbit.
But even
I would have thought,
even
go ahead.
as a werewolf, like we see it in book 3 with Remus Lupin.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cross between a wolf and a human, effectively, which means their bodies are not going to work as well as either just a straight human or a straight wolf. They're going to be fairly slowed down because their bodies aren't going to work. Where their strength lies is their ability to maim and tear and rip, and the strength contained within their body. It's not speed that's their power, it's their strength.
Mm-hmm.
Next point I had.
Yep.
Yes, Hagrid. Yell before hiding.
Yup. Excuse me, I'm just gonna go hide behind this tree and hope that thing doesn't see me.
But also,
how the fuck did you find me?
Also, Voldemort, you clearly probably heard him. So what the fuck?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this one we can probably all go on a tangent a bit. Well, I charge this. We never see female centaurs, and that is because J.K. is afraid to show titties.
Well, also, there is a thing in mythology where centaurs are primarily male.
That depends on the mythology that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And that depends on the stories that you're looking at. There are female centaurs. For instance, one of my favorite book series authors, Piers Anthony, specifically the Xanth series, does not shy away from having female centaurs. They have to be able to reproduce. As a matter of fact, there is one book specifically where they spend an entire chapter or two within basically a centaur camp. And yeah, it's plainly described that there are females within the camp. And they do describe them and whatnot. And the main character of that story, I think it was Bink, actually gets fairly intimidated by the females because they are fully frontal. They're basically fully bare in the front. But they don't have the same sense of indecency that we do.
Right.
For example.
We're getting a buzz from you. But yeah, they don't have the same sense of indecency that we do. Their indecency lies elsewhere, such as in the Xanth books, the centaur's sense of indecency, it is extremely frowned upon and almost considered taboo to talk about centaurs having magic because they are magic.
Another example I can think of centaurs in media is the Narnia series.
Yes.
Because like in the books and in the movies, we saw, especially when they all return back to Narnia, we see the centaurs, and there are females. And yes, because it's a children's movie, they have to be decent. But at the very least, they make sense that it's like, no, it's armor pieces.
Yeah.
That they're wearing, and the males and females wear it.
Yeah. Northern Whisper says, or Harry Potter rewritten by furries. That's a path we're not going down today.
No.
But again, it depends on the mythos and the lore that you are taking into account. There are various iterations of centaurs all throughout like human history within lore. The Greeks, I believe,
the Greeks have the mythology where it's mainly male in the centaur race, and they go after human females.
That's got to be awkward for the mother.
It's actually horrifying because the human mothers don't survive the childbearing. And I believe that is the Greek mythology. I could be wrong as to which culture has that mythology.
I keep forgetting just how bloody just how terrifying and absolutely bloody Greek mythology is.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, in that particular mythology, when a centaur child is born from a human mother, it's bursting from the stomach instead of natural birth because of how large they are.
Well, that's an image I'm going to carry around with me for the rest of the day. Thank you very much. For those of you that can't see, Lady Puddin's here making faces and like gagging, and yeah.
Yeah, she's not liking that mental image. Nope.
No, Lady Punnet's done. Lady Punnet is done. But I don't know. It all depends on the lore, right?
Yeah.
What else did we have for points?
I am actually kind of surprised that it took that long for the detention to come up.
I'm not.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
They're in the middle of exams.
That's fair.
They have to do it on a night where they know for sure the students don't have any exams the next day or the day or the evening of. Because here's the point. Yes, they have to serve detention, but they also have to acknowledge that if the detention interferes with the exam in any way, then the students and or parents could argue that that would affect how the grade turns out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a similar way how if there's like a traumatic event or something happens to the student beforehand in real life schooling, the parents can sometimes argue to have a re-exam taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking as someone who used to work in the school field. All right. So another point I have for Harry. Harry, all life is important. You don't just wish something bad to happen to Draco because he's being a prick.
I mean, Who here hasn't envisioned Draco Malfoy meeting an untimely grisly end?
More so people would imagine that for Umbridge.
Yeah. I also think that maybe okay, so here's the thing. I think this might just be me trying to give him some more character development than just being like a two-dimensional bully. I think part of the reason he spooked Neville was he was trying to break the tension. Because
Maybe.
he was scared to go in. He saw Neville was scared to go in. He probably didn't think he would actually be so scared.
But then
that he
again,
was set
look
up
at
apart.
Neville in the first book. Like, look at his temperament, and Draco knows that. Northern Whisper says, could you become a furry temporarily by adding the hair of your chosen animal to a polyjuice potion? Actually, we have a problem with that. In Book 2, it is stated that it is meant for human transformations only from one human to another. And we have an incident with Hermione where she actually has to go to the hospital wing to get it reversed. She spends a lot of time in the hospital wing, which means at that point, it's a permanent thing.
Yeah, because she accidentally put in hairs of a cat.
Yep. Millicent Bulstrode's cat, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Stop fighting.
Speaking of cats.
Don't you tell me...
Stop it.
Don't you tell me not to fight.
Shush you.
No. So.
Listen, Nacho, he is twice your size, and he has like 6 pounds on you. Stop it. All right. So I have a major point, but I'm saving that one for last because I think it's really groundbreaking.
Okay.
I kind of wish we got to see Draco's reaction to seeing the unicorn, because here's the thing. His wand core is a unicorn hair.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is one of the purest ones. It is the most difficult to turn dark. It's literally against its nature.
Yep.
To use it for dark spells.
Yep.
That is really interesting considering it's that wand belongs to Draco.
Yep.
Yes, it's an interesting parallel because a lot of people point out that Draco and Harry are two sides of the same coin. It shows examples what would have happened if either one of them grew up in a different environment.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If Harry had grown up in like this pure-blooded society, if a pure-blooded family actually took him in, he could have easily become bigoted. And with Draco, it shows he has the option and the chance to become great, to become possibly this great light wizard from the get-go because of the fact that the wand chose him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But he is constantly striving for his father's approval, because bear in mind, from what we know, Narissa Malfoy, knee black,
Narcissa Malfoy?
her, never actively showed to be a part of the Death Eaters.
Mm-mm.
For all we know, we never seen her get a mask on. We've never seen her do it. It's all men. It's a boys' club, let's face it. Besides for Bellatrix Black.
Yeah.
The strange person. It's just, if his role model had been more of his mother than his father, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened.
Yep.
But I would have liked to see his reaction, because maybe he wouldn't have cared. Maybe he would have looked at it and like even just like slightly clutching his wand, because we don't find out his like wand core until a bit later in the series, if at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that might be just like a Pottermore thing is found out.
Yeah.
Could be.
Next point.
Yep.
Centaurs are Switzerland.
Actually, given current world events, not anymore.
No.
Switzerland has officially made... Or, no, sorry, that was Sweden. My bad, not Switzerland.
Switzerland is the one that always stays neutral, right?
They try to.
They try to. So basically, they are currently Hitalia Switzerland, which is don't make me beat you with my peace prize. Because they're trying to stay neutral, and they're like, no, we just foretell the happenings. We do not interfere with men. Firenze is friend-shaped.
He's what?
Yeah. Friend-shaped.
Firenze is friend-shaped, and he is a very, very pretty horseman. Because I looked it up, and the type of horse body they described is actually known to be like on the pale yellow to almost white side.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he is almost an albino if it weren't for the fact he has sapphire blue eyes. Which, by the way, why are you describing this horse guy as being very, very attractive?
Which is funny because Firenze actually comes in Book 5. We see him again in Book 5. He actually comes and teaches at the school for a bit.
Yep. And yeah, that's right. It's very interesting. My last point. So they kept saying Mars is bright tonight, and since I know a bit about astrology and a bit about mythology,
Are you talking
it was
Mars, Ares, the Greek god of war?
no, I'm talking about the planet.
Yes,
Yep.
but Mars is
So-
also representative of Ares, which is the Greek god of war.
Yes,
Yep.
Anyways.
and it was often stated with Greek mythology that if Mars was bright, it meant war was coming.
Which makes sense again with the Greek god, because Ares is the Greek god of war. He thrives off of it, and I mean that's his sustenance is war. So
Basically, what I'm saying is that it was been foreshadowed since book 1 that a war was coming.
yep,
Yep.
which is interesting because I'd like to see how Mars looks in book 7, but I don't think we actually get a look at it.
Probably
I don't
not.
think so either, because let's face it, I don't think any of them actually took astrology seriously.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those courses that it's like a core course that you have to take in case you decide to go further into it, but it's something that not a lot of people continue.
unless you're
Yeah,
Hermione,
because-
in which case you throw a teacup, smash it, and walk out of the room.
Yep.
No, that was divination.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, but divination can be tied to astrology as well, because the stars can be read in such a way to foretell the future, as the Centaurs have proven.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was my last point, besides for the fact that there were only 5 female speaking lines.
Yeah,
Whole
I
chapter.
know we have huge issues, and I think we actually covered that in last episode. Not last
Yeah.
episode,
We
but 2
This
episodes ago.
continues to prove lack of diversity, JK. I know this was probably geared towards young boys, but the fact that you went through the trouble of actually giving Harry a female friend who's been known to be a chatterbox and a know-it-all, and the fact that, I get it, she was scared, but you mean to tell me she wouldn't at least try to earn some of the house points back in class when she knows she can get house points back really easily by answering questions correctly?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So.
Like I am fairly certain that written differently, at least 50 of those points would have been won back by Hermione.
Within at least a week or two.
Yep.
Yeah, within the time from getting caught to actually serving detention, at least 50 of those points would have been won back.
Yep.
But
by
I think
Hermione.
she's also still in shock that she got into trouble. 'Cause
McGonagall.
bear in mind,
Sorry, go ahead.
this is probably the first time Hermione has ever actively gotten in trouble at all. And if we follow through with my theory that she might be on the spectrum or she might have ADHD, there's a good chance she has RSD, which is rejection sensitivity to dysphoria, which basically means if she believes she's being rejected in some way, the worst possible assumption is that everything and everyone hates her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tyrion Phoenix made a comment earlier, and I just want to kind of reach back into the chat for a moment and pull that forward. McGonagall says you're going to lose 50 points each. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the castle, Dumbledore clears his throat and then suddenly steps out of the shadows in McGonagall's office. 10 points to Dumbledore. Excuse me while I just quote that meme.
McGonagall, what the fuck?
Yeah. But then again, let's also not pretend like McGonagall actually takes it easy on Gryffindors, because she holds them to higher standards than, say, Snape holds the Slytherins to, because McGonagall knows what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't bend to the rules for just anyone.
Yep. So with the whole Polyjuice potion bit, I'm seeing a few comments. Tyrion Phoenix commented after Northern Whisper, "Throw a cucumber." And Northern Whisper says, "So not temporary for the Polyjuice mishap. Black market potions at fur cons."
Yep.
Tyrion Phoenix.
Give us
Oh,
one
sorry.
sec. I think Lady Punnett had something she wanted to talk about, and I think she's putzing around with Discord settings, so...
Okay.
Finish yours out, and then we'll come back to Lady Punnett.
Okay. Tyrion Phoenix says, because Bellatrix Bonham Carter says, "Go F yourself." And then says, "Switzerland did sanction Russia, though."
Yep.
And then they said, which is a massive step for them in terms of alignment.
Agreed.
And then Northern Whispered says, "The policy foretold a prophecy." or the prophecy foretold a prophecy. I'm not sure which. And then Tyrion Phoenix says the cucumber was for the cats fighting.
Yep.
Well, yes.
Lady Punnet,
Meow.
Lady Punnet, are you okay?
Lady Punnet has actually messaged in the general chat. She thinks Snape isn't as hard on his snakes because everyone else already is. That's why he hands out points since they are most likely to lose them.
That is totally fair. So basically he's favoring the Slytherins, which is basically that's on brand for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which also would bring up the point of, yes, he is favoring Slytherins because Slytherins is also in canon known to harbor darker souls such as like the Death Eaters and whatnot. However, there are Muggleborns and Mudbloods in the House of Slytherin as well. So the fact that Snape is doing all this stuff for Slytherins, in a sense, that's probably the most he can do to give kindness to those that are not pureblood as well.
I also think that it follows through with my whole theory that the reason he's not as hard on them is because everyone else already is. Because of the fact that the professors didn't do anything when people were actively booing 11-year-olds for just being sorted into Slytherin tells you a lot.
Yeah.
It tells you a lot that there is biases. And I still think that no matter how good a professor is, there will be biases.
Yep.
It's already been proven in the books. Yep. And the movies. So I think the reason he's like, okay, 5 points to you, 5 points to you, 10 points to you, a point from you, because you notice he doesn't actively take a lot of points from students.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like a single point, 5 points. You've never seen him say like 15 or 20 points.
Yep.
But he's also more likely to give points. And I've read fan fictions before where it's like, when he talks to his snakes in the common rooms, he will state, you have to act as a unit because no one else will trust you. No one else will be kind to you. If you have beef, it's settled here in the pit. It is not outside. We stand for a united front. You will notice I am not as hard on you. No, if you do break the rules, you will serve detention with me, and it will not be pleasant. If you cause problems for your fellow house, you will serve detention with me.
Yeah.
So he expects a lot from his students, but he has to favor them because no one else will. Because to my knowledge, how many other professors are actually Slytherin?
So what you're saying is he's rooting for the underdog.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
He's being that in my head right now. In this whole kind of conversation, Snape is coming off as strict, loving dad for House Slytherin.
Fair.
Yeah. That does not mean he was never a fucking asshole.
Oh, I'm not saying he never was. I'm just saying that he has to be soft for his Slytherins because to our knowledge, there are no other Slytherin professors. And they have a hard enough time earning points, especially since the deputy headmistress is the Gryffindor head of house as well. And yes, it is stated that she is still hard on her Gryffindors and that she is not, it's proven, she's not afraid to take a lot of points if they do something wrong.
Yeah.
As is evidenced by 50 points each. That's 150 just right off the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a shocker come the next morning to everyone else in Gryffindor house.
Exactly.
Ferret says it's an attitude of, I got your back, but don't disappoint me.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's the way I look at it. And it holds true with a lot of it because you never see him actively give out detentions, but with fanfictions I've read, that's because he gives them detentions behind closed doors and basically is like, look, you've messed up. You have to know that's not okay.
Yeah.
I am not going to actively go against you in public, but know that if this continues, it will not be pleasant.
Northern Whisper points out that Slughorn was Slytherin, and yes, he was, and he actually led the Slytherin house at one point. I think he was directly before Snape, wasn't he?
He was directly before Snape. He was actually the potions professors for Lily and Snape.
Yeah.
During their years. However, I have problems with him too because he had an exclusive club for a selective few chosen students.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that we can't really go
No,
fully
but
into because I'm not in the mood to go into that dark area of my mind today.
Wait until,
Nope.
but wait until we possibly do book 6.
Yep.
Yep.
So, with that being said, I think this is a good place to end this episode and this discussion. If you're watching live on Twitch today, just stick around with us because we have some other things to talk about. But we hope that you have enjoyed joining us for episode and chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and we hope you have enjoyed the ensuing discussion. We would like to take a moment to basically say we know the world is a tough place right now. We hope that you guys are taking care of yourself and doing what you need to in order to make sure that you're in the best headspace that you can be and that you are taking care of, well, you. And we hope that you come back for next episode.
Yep.
I guess, let me see here, because there was something else I wanted to just quickly mention. Oh, right. We have a lot of issues going on in the United States right now, one specifically being that trans people are under attack like never before. As a matter of fact, the state of Texas is launching a witch hunt. So, with that being said, I have put some new products in my Teespring store. If you would like to help support trans initiatives, I don't know which initiative I'm going to be donating to just yet, but I will be posting on social media when I choose that, and I will be posting when I figure out how much at the end of the year is going to be donated. But I do have some designs in my shop that are trans positive, and 15% of those sales will be going to support a trans initiative that I will choose at a later date. We also have...
apparently this BS is happening in Idaho as well. I would have to look into that because that is the state I currently reside in.
And we also have Florida and Nebraska. So the organization that I choose will be basically based out of the United States right now to help fight anti-trans legislation and to help basically fight the good fight. If you would like to support, you are more than welcome to. lanktr.ee/blazewing2010, and you just basically find the link that says my store, and that will take you directly to my Teespring store. You can surf through all of my designs. If it is not a trans design in my store that you choose to purchase, 15% of that sale will be going to Legacy of Hope, which is an organization here in Canada that helps residential school survivors. And it helps to fight for them, and they help raise awareness and whatnot. So 15% of most sales go to Legacy of Hope. The trans designs, that'll be going towards a trans rights organization. But with that being said, if you would like to reach us on social media, one moment please. Where is... I think it was here. Here it is. If you would like to reach us on social media, you can reach Lady Punnet on TikTok at paulina.havilon. You can reach myself at lanktr.ee/blazewing2010. You can reach The Reading Dragon on Linktree at lanktr.ee/thereadingdragon. If you would like to take a look at our podcast feed and or potentially leave us a recorded message that we could then use here on the podcast for viewer feedback or listener feedback, you can do so at anchor.fm/idiot-book-nook. You can also leave us an email at idiotbooknook@gmail.com and our website, idiotbooknook.wordpress.com, if you would like to take a look at what's going on in our base of operations. That being said, for episode 15 of the Idiot Book Nook and chapter 15, I'm Blazewing.
And I am the Reading Dragon.
I'm Lady Punnet.
And we will see you next episode for episode 16, Through the Trap Door. We are going to be officially finishing Harry Potter within the next 2 episodes. See you next episode. God.